Hi everybody, welcome back to Law Series Gateway to the Legal World. Our objective is to disseminate legal information to the common man. I hope we are meeting the purpose. In the past, we have shared information in the text format on the Constitution of India, Criminal Procedure Code, and Industrial Dispute Act. We will continue to share information, but not in the text format, but on the video format. People said that video format is more effective than the text format. They said reading is difficult, listening is very easy. So we have switched over to the video format. We have an aim of uploading 10,000 videos on law and legal system of India in our YouTube channel Law Series. For this, your cooperation and blessings are very, very important. Add more people to the group so that the community broadens and the legal information is known to larger group of people. Today, I thought I will share some information about misconduct and the disciplinary procedures. What is a misconduct? First, even knowing what is a misconduct, I am talking about the industrial relations. So when I say industrial relations, please refer to section 2J of Industrial Dispute Act, which explains about what is an industry. This has been already told in the text format in Law Series Facebook group. So, in an industry, what is misconduct? I will give you one illustration. A workman attends a shift, that is night shift. He reports to duty at 10 p.m. The supervisor allocates him the job. He is expected to do some X number of components on a CNC machine. Over the midnight, the workman feels drowsy and he goes sleeps. He sets all the programs on the CNC machine and he goes and sleeps. After some time, this supervisor comes and looks for this workman. He sees all around the machine. In the vicinity is not visible. Later he finds that at a concealed place the workman is sleeping. He is in the sleeping posture because in one of the Supreme Court case, a person was just lying down on the table. Certain actions were taken and Supreme Court has clearly told there is no evidence that he was sleeping. So therefore that case was dismissed. And it went in favor of the workman. So in this case, he is sleeping in the sleeping posture. Okay, all this matters a lot. So that is why I thought today I should speak on the disciplinary procedures. Whatever knowledge I have, I thought I'll share with many of the people, upcoming HR people, upcoming legal practitioners. I thought I'll share this information. Particularly labor who are practicing labor, upcoming labor law practitioners. For them, I thought I'll share this information. Therefore, I am uploading this video. Now, this workman is sleeping. The supervisor sees what he has to do. The first thing he is expected to do is take the evidence, because that evidence is going to help him in the future inquiries. Even in the court of law, that is going to help. So he can do several ways are there to collect the evidence. He may call two workmen who are working there and show them, yeah guys, you are the witness, look at him, he is sleeping. That is one way. He can take a picture. If camera phones are allowed inside the shop floor, in certain factories it is not allowed. If in this factory it is allowed, he can take a picture. Even that becomes an evidence. So he has gathered evidence, some kind of witness or evidence he has gathered, and what next he has to do? He has to go and report to the controlling officer. So let me talk about who is a controlling officer. A controlling officer can be a factory manager, he can be an HR person, He can be any other person who is appointed by the company as a controlling officer or controlling authority. An appointing authority is not a controlling authority. Both are appointing authority is different, controlling authority is different. At a later stage, when we discuss about the charge sheet, the charge sheet can be issued by the controlling authority and not by the appointing authority. So therefore, this fellow now he goes and reports to the controlling authority. When he goes to the controlling authority and explains that this particular workman was sleeping on duty, the first thing the controlling authority is expected to do is conduct a preliminary inquiry. Now they have conducted a preliminary inquiry. In the preliminary inquiry, what is required to be recorded? Number one, from what time to what time this workman is sleeping. What is that? In what posture he was sleeping? Where is the location? What work did the supervisor give him, and what work actually he was doing? All this preliminary inquiry is required, and that has to be recorded. And if the workman is guilty of misconduct, then charge sheet can be issued by the controlling authority. And when a charge sheet is issued, what should be the contents of the charge sheet? Number one, the date, the location or the place, whatever you call, and the incident and how it amounts to misconduct. Let me tell you here, if an act is not mentioned in the standing order as misconduct, you cannot do anything. The first and primary most thing is a particular act should be called as a misconduct in the approved standing order. Or if you are not expected to see, there are certain limitations, under the act, in Industrial Employment Standing Order Act. If the workmen or employees are more than 100, you are supposed to have the standing order. In certain states it is 50, like in the state of Karnataka it is 50. If the workmen are more than 50, you are supposed to have a standing order. However, for IT is exempted. Under the new code, IR code, Industrial Relations Code 2019, the number is increased to 300. Anyhow, that is just passed in the parliament. Rules have to come and then implementation happens. But till then, existing laws are prevailing. So that apart, the standing order should actually tell that an act is a misconduct. So that you have to mention in the charge sheet. And that charge sheet you will issue to the workman. Now workmen, sometimes they take a different route. They say, they deny, altogether they deny, and they say, I am not going to take this charge sheet. Because I have experience, I was issuing a charge sheet, and the workman said, I am not going to take this charge sheet. You are making false allegations. They even ran to the union leader. Then the union leader came. And he asked, why you are receiving the charge sheet? I gave everything, the details. Then finally, the union leader himself became the witness to state that workman did not take the charge sheet. Finally, he did not take. Then we had to send it through register post. That is an experience which I am sharing. In reality, what the procedure says is, if a workman denies to accept the charge sheet, you can send it through register post after taking 2 witnesses stating that the workman denied to take the charge sheet. So you have to take the 2 witnesses and then you send it by register post, acknowledgement due. Sometimes it happens, the workman doesn't even receive that. Then the postman writes there, refuse to receive. It will come back to you again. File it. It becomes an evidence that the workman has denied to take the charge sheet. Even that, in certain cases, in certain standing orders, even that amounts to misconduct. So misconduct and a misconduct over that. So you will have all these evidences to take disciplinary actions. Okay, so you keep it, and when you receive back from the postman stating that refuse to accept or not, address not found, something, you will get it. That don't open the cover, keep it in the file, because if you open the cover, other interpretation, it may be construed in a different way. Therefore, don't open it. Put it in the file. And after this, you can you can start the domestic inquiry proceedings. Now, when a charge sheet is issued, there can be four outcomes. Number one, the workman may accept it. Yes, I have done this misconduct, I agree. So then give minor whatever punishment is prescribed in the standing order. Please, you may do that. You may give a warning letter or suspend. You cannot suspend more than 4 days, which I'll be speaking at a later time. You cannot suspend beyond 4 days. When he accepts, you can do that. When he denies, when he doesn't even bother to see, he is bothered about that incident, that entire charges itself, he is least bothered. So in such cases, you will conduct the domestic inquiry. I was telling four outcomes are there. One, he may accept. Second, he may seek time, give me little more time. Third, he may completely deny the charges. And the fourth, he may completely ignore the charge sheet itself. So these are the four outcomes. In the first, anyhow, action will be taken, whatever you feel appropriate. In the second, if he is asking time, give sufficient time. Normally, don't give beyond 7 days. 7 days, I think, is sufficient time. There is no prescription in that, but that I feel 7 days should be sufficient. And in the third case, where he is refuting, where he says he is completely denying, I am sorry, I didn't do this, your allegations are false, conduct a domestic inquiry. Or in the fourth case also, he is the least bothered, conduct a domestic inquiry. So how do you conduct a domestic inquiry? To conduct a domestic inquiry, first you should have an inquiry officer. You have to appoint an inquiry officer. And inquiry officer normally is taken as a senior and responsible person of the organization. I'm sorry. Never take the same department, same function as an inquiry officer, because we have said that nemo debet esse judex in propria sua casa. That means nobody can be a judge for his own interest. If you are taking somebody in the same department, say for example in our sleeping case, which I illustrated at the beginning, if you take the supervisor himself as the inquiry officer, certainly he is going to speak against the workman. I just gave an example. The instances can be different. Because we illustrated that, I am referring that. So he cannot be the inquiry officer. Inquiry officer can be a senior person, in a senior responsible person. In certain organization where there are a little number of senior persons, you can have a responsible person from outside. There are qualified professionals as far as conducting disciplinary inquiries are concerned. You can take them as inquiry officers. So once inquiry officer is appointed, what you need to do? First, you will give the preliminary inquiry report, the charge sheets, the denial if there is a denial, all these things. Whatever you have collected till the inquiry is commissioned. So till that time, whatever is collected, you will hand over to the inquiry officer. Now the inquiry officer, what he does, he will go through all the documents, all the witnesses, documentary, other type of witnesses. He will undergo that. He will watch that. He will understand that. And after understanding what he does, he will give you the notice of inquiry to the workman. And notice of inquiry is essential because workman has the right to know that there is an inquiry being conducted at this particular place, at that particular date, by this person. All these things he should know. He has the right to know the inquiry. That is notice to inquire, right to know the notice of inquiry. So that notice should reach the workman, and workman is expected to appear to the domestic inquiry at that particular point of time. And also kindly note that a presenting officer also is required to be presented, appointed. Presenting officer represents the management point of view. So presenting officer is there, and he will put the management point of view. Workman who has charged with the act of misconduct, he is there, so he appears, and the domestic inquiry starts. Assuming this workman doesn't appear, give him a chance. Maybe he is ill health, he is suffering from fever, for example, so he cannot appear before the domestic inquiry. So he has not communicated, but still you can give him a chance, because that is what is adi alteram partem. So you should be hearing his point of view also, why he did not appear domestic inquiry. Subsequently, several times he doesn't appear, then this case will be ex parte. And every time this workman doesn't appear, it becomes the responsibility of the inquiry officer to note each and every absence of the workman, and that report he has to submit. So that is when the workman doesn't appear. Now workman has come, that sleeping fellow has come, there is presenting officer, so the inquiry officer starts conducting. How does he conduct the inquiry? First he will take the attendance who are all present, and next the presenting officer will read out the instances, he will read out whatever the charges and what are the evidences available and all these things. See, now workman also has the right, he can take assistant. If he himself cannot present his case, he can take an assistant. And taking an assistant, he can be from his union also. If there is a union, any of the union member or leaders of the union, anybody can be his assistant. And they can support him in presenting the case. Now the charges, counter charges, evidences, counter evidences, all these things will be recorded by the inquiry officer, and inquiry officer will take signature on every page what he records from the presenting officer, from the workman, from the witnesses, and he will also countersign in that inquiry report, and finally he submits the report. And what action to be taken, that is left to the management. Management may also ask inquiry officer, you suggest what should be done, so he can also recommend his point of view on the punishment. So this is the brief description of disciplinary procedures. And finally, what is the punishment you can give? You can give maximum punishment of 4 days suspension, nothing beyond that. You can suspend only for 4 days. And if you are deducting some money from his wages, it should not be more than 2% of his wages as per as Payment of Wages Act is concerned. So this is what you need to do. Okay, in certain cases what happens, there will be an incident which requires a lot of time for inquiry. So such cases what we do suspension pending inquiry. And any inquiry you should not extend beyond 90 days. It should be completed within 90 days. Only in the, say if the workman is charged by a criminal offence, he has committed some offence as told in the Indian Penal Code then say a workman has committed a murder or a culpable homicide or a theft. So in such cases the court takes a lot of time. In such cases it may go beyond 90 days. But in other cases where it is within industry, he has committed an act of misconduct, try to complete within 90 days. And during 90 days, you are supposed to pay subsistence allowance. From 0 to 90 days, the subsistence allowance as prescribed under the standing order is 50% of basic and DA. Anything beyond 90 days, you are supposed to pay 75% of basic and DA and other allowance. In both the cases, it is basic, DA and other allowance. Less than 90 days, 50%. More than 90 days, 75%. So like that, you will be paying the subsistence allowance. Finally, the case, the misconduct is proved. How you are going to pay the rest of the wages. For first 4 days where suspension is there, you can deduct that amount for 4 days. Rest of the days, that is from fifth day to 90 days, whatever period it is taken, you will pay rest of the wages as if he was working in the company. If he had worked on a particular day, what salary he should have got, that salary you will pay, deducting the subsistence allowance. Because 50%, that is the remaining 50% you will be paying. In other words, 50% subsistence allowance anyhow you have paid from 5th day to 90th day. Remaining 50% you will be paying it. So that is what it is. So when it comes to the subsistence allowance, when it comes to deduction of wages, you cannot deduct more than 2% of wages of the workman, employee, anybody. Right? So this is a brief outline of misconduct and disciplinary procedures. If I have to talk in detail, it will take 2 hours. Every aspect of it, with illustration, with Supreme Court judgments, various industrial tribunal judgments, labor court judgments. It will take 2 hours is also very lesser time. But I am giving you the outline of this disciplinary procedures. Misconduct and disciplinary procedures. If you want more information, please do contact me on my cell phone number 9632633008, or you may contact me on my email m8088969113@gmail.com. I request everybody to add more members to Law series, because this is going to enable people to know the legal system in India and various laws applicable to us. Thank you very much.